Hello and welcome. I'm Hannah Fairbairn, and this is a short video about part 2 of my book. And just to remind you, or maybe this is the first time you've watched one of these videos, I have written a book. It was published 2 years ago, and it's called When You Can't Believe Your Eyes, Vision Loss and Personal Recovery. It was published in the summer of 2019 by Charles C. Thomas. And it's available in print, of course, but also in 3 accessible formats. And I have written it especially for the person losing sight and their families. It's for you. If you're the one in your family losing sight, the whole book is directed towards you and your gradual, or maybe fast, but usually gradual adjustment and acceptance of this very serious and, often devastating loss. As I say, this is the 3rd video. The first one describes how the book came to be written, all the people who contributed to it with tips and tricks and ideas about how to improve it, from ophthalmologists to seniors losing vision, and lots of vision rehab instructors and working age adults and teens. They're just so many people, therapists, and then also about my own vision loss and my daughter being born with vision loss, how I come to this with a lot of experience from different directions, including being a teacher for 18 years at the well-known Carroll Center for the Blind in Boston. So then the next video was about part 1 of my book, and that is called Believing the Unbelievable, and it has just 2 chapters. The whole book is very short, pretty short, and it has 12 chapters. And so in these 2 chapters, the first one is very broad-ranging, across mainly medical and issues like, can blindness be prevented, and more important almost, how to get a firm diagnosis, how to get to a good ophthalmologist. And the second chapter is about finances and first adjustments when you get back to your home after the first series of treatments, whatever they are. This video brings up 3 essential kind of takeaways from my book, the first 3, which are, first of all, get the best, really fight, be the squeaky wheel, be polite but persistent to get the best possible treatment. And a second essential kind of theme of the book is that there are so many ways to lose sight, so many times to lose it, and it has so many different effects that the book tries to cover not everything, but it tries to cover many kinds of sight loss at different times. And the third theme of the book is that it's absolutely essential to stay at the center of your own life, not to let family member or somebody else take charge. Even maybe you have to a tiny bit at the beginning if you're really ill, but mainly you just have to get back to it as soon as you can. So this video is really about part 2 of my book, which has 3 chapters, each one outlining and detailing in all the book has nearly 150 short sections, each one going over some essential aspect of vision loss. And well, maybe not all of them are essential. Some may affect you more than others, but they're all important to have as a possibility for the reader in case it affects you. The 3 chapters in part 2, the video part 2, are first of all, and very, very important, learning to trust yourself again. And this has 14 of those short sections, this chapter, and because it comes at this really very serious issue from every possible angle I could think of that might help you. And the first one is that many people have a kind of identity dislocation. After they lose vision, they no longer are sure who they are. And so the book goes into detail about that, and also about ways to keep busy, ways to get back to some simple household tasks so you feel you're making a contribution, and very important, rest and recreation, and also for some people, forms of religious or spiritual support and exercise are very important indeed. So that's chapter 3. Chapter 4, when you get that trusting in yourself, believing in yourself and sticking to it back in place, you may then be able to grieve. Now, just about every time I give a talk to people who live with blindness, this comes up. The more experienced people who've gone through the most with this, they say, you have to grieve. And so this may not be obvious to you, and it certainly wasn't obvious to me when this first happened to me. I was 33. And my attitude was, pick yourself up and go on, kind of war idea. This doesn't work. It can work for a while, and it's very good for a while, but then it doesn't work, because this is something I've kind of come to understand more since I've talked to so many people after the book was published. So the reason you have to grieve is that you have to work through what has happened from all kinds of points of view, and feel all your emotions about it, in order to separate your sense of yourself again, or at least partly, from what has happened. And then you can move on. While you're kind of attached to what has happened, to the vision loss, to the very serious consequences this may have brought upon you, while you think that that's all there is, people get stuck. So once you start to grieve, you can open out and face things. So there's a section in chapter 4, which is all about grief. And there are sections on anger, because this comes up so much for people. They feel rage, and I certainly tell a story about myself in the book. Rage that comes up, fury, resentment, irritation, irritability, every aspect of anger comes up, because vision loss deprives you of so much pleasure and also involves you in a lot of hard work. So anger, and of course fear, all aspects of fear, and then depression can come up, sadness, and I also emphasize in chapter 4 the need to talk to a lot of people. And this is another essential theme or takeaway in my book, and that is that you have to talk to a lot of people, get help. This is not something anybody does on their own. This is very significant. So one of the ways that you can get help, besides, I hope, talking to your closest family and friends, maybe you have a minister that you love and trust, maybe you have a wise cousin who's been through a lot that you can talk to on the phone. It's not a case of either or, it's a case of everybody. And then one of those people may well need to be a therapist or counselor while you work through this. And it may be that during the severest times, the first months or year or so, or two or three, you may need to consider medication along with the therapy. And there's one section on that, and also a section on telling the difference between depression and sadness, and one you need to get help with, and the other is a more natural feeling after a great loss. So that's chapter 4. Grief is very messy. It doesn't hit people in the same way, or even in the same way for very long at a time. So actually the first section in chapter 4 is about ways that people have laid out the stages or phases of grief. And this is none of the ones that I detail is going to suit you exactly. It's not going to reflect what happens to you, but you'll get some ideas from it of what might happen. And that kind of shows you a little bit of a way ahead, how it's played out for other people who have got through it. And hopefully that's a little bit encouraging and useful. So now chapter 5, that this is when you have been through maybe getting trust in yourself back and some grieving, but maybe you'll go right ahead, as some people do, and get some vision rehab therapy. It's sometimes called instruction, teaching, education, whatever you want to call it, immediately, just to help you stay safe and manage at home. I certainly got it instantly, but or very fast. But the bigger, longer programs, which really help you live a full life, are probably something you're going to delay for a couple of years, if not longer. We had one, I mentioned that I taught at the Carroll Center for a very long time, nearly 20 years. And one client we had stayed home for 7 years before he came to the Carroll Center. And after that, once he kind of got there, he was a wonderful guy who had so many good innovative ideas, and started his own restaurant and just did a whole lot with his life once he got back. So the chapter on working towards getting yourself vision rehab lays out what a good rehab course contains, what it and how maybe to tell a good course from a bad course, remembering to be a squeaky wheel, deciding if you want to start with instruction at home and then maybe move on to something where you go to a center, and really advocating that if you can manage it, a good residential course is the very best, because then you spend a lot of time with people who just live with vision loss or blindness as an everyday occurrence, as just, and they have so many skills and such ordinary lives which contain blindness as one serious factor, but it doesn't dominate their lives or mine. So that is chapter 5, and I want to just give you a sneak preview of the next video, which will be about part 3. And now we're moving from the first steps into where you've got some training and you're beginning to manage ordinary life again, and now you get into the more advanced stuff, which is the whole second half of the book, which is all about assertive speech and self-advocacy after you lose vision. So that will go up next month. I'm putting up one each month, and I do hope that you enjoy it and find it useful. But above all, read the book. When you can't believe your eyes, vision loss and personal recovery, go to my blog, which is called visionlossandpersonalrecovery.com, and the book page is right at the top, and you can go there and order the print or one of the accessible copies, or you can get it on Talking Books. So very good wishes to you and your family until next month. Bye-bye.